Perfect. Hello and welcome back. How are you, my friends? And today we are for our another meetup for Saudi Arabia, Microsoft Excel and Flower platform. And today we have an amazing guest, my friend, my brother from UK, and I'll quickly introduce you to him, Alan Murray from Computergaga. So thank you, Alan, for joining. And before I go and dive what Alan is going to show, just let me quickly tell you about myself. I'm Faraz Sheikh. I'm placed in Saudi Arabia. I run Meetup. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, innovative educator, Microsoft certified Office master, and Excel expert. And I love working on Excel, providing solutions, in fact, on all Office applications. So my mission with my friends to make Excel exciting and make that's why I say in my tagline of my Excel exciting that we make Excel exciting. It's our team. So our mission is to help the people, provide them the easiest solution, and that's it. And you're here today. And thank you everybody for joining. So just if you are new here and if you haven't been or missed out on some of our past meetup, then I would recommend you that you can go and check the link for these meetups, and I'll be sharing in the description. And these are the past speakers, those who I speak about in our Saudi Arabia meetup. And we have some upcoming great events coming up. So make sure that you mark your calendar, and thank you everybody for coming today also. And if you are going to see Rahim Zulfikar from Pakistan, he is going to come and he'll be showing us some advanced analytical dashboards in Microsoft Power BI. And that will be quite interesting to see, as he mentioned that he's going to uh, do some financial operational tracking and some expenses report in the business. So it would be interesting to see Alan, the Rahim, coming up and showing us some KPI metrics as well. And then we have 18th May, Oakley, who is here. Thank you. And he will be showing us tips and tricks about macro. So he'll be making us from zero to hero. So no code, low code VBA. So this would be really interesting as well to see that how he'll be showing us some automations, and it would be lovely to see that. Then we have Tanya from Switzerland. She will be showing us some tricks, the secrets about Power Query parameters. So that would be interesting to see the parameters secrets in Power Query. So make sure that you join up and register for these meetups so that you get updates about the upcoming events. And just a quick housekeeping over here that you can just keep your mic muted throughout the session. And in case if you're having some connectivity issues, then you can exit and rejoin it. And feel free to use the chat box. And Alan, I would leave it for Alan that how he would prefer to ask the question, whether people can unmute and ask them. I would leave that privilege to Alan. If you have anything raise up, feel free to ask your questions because we have experts over here. So they are here to answer you. And note that this session will be recorded and you can find it on my YouTube channel. There will be playlist for all these meetups we are organizing. So make sure that you check them out. So Alan Murray, my friend, my brother Alan Murray, he's from UK. And I got a chance to meet Alan in Bulgaria. Okay, that's the picture we took together in Bulgaria. You can see Alan and me. We were enjoying drinks over there. And then we have a nice picture when we were going to the castle in Slovenia. So this is in Bulgaria and Slovenia. And we have some more nice pictures from there. And it was really fun over there. And then we have some other friends as well. We have our friend Leila, Christian, Alan. We all are here. This was in Bulgaria. So I would leave the floor now to Alan, so Alan can talk about himself more and introduce him. And I feel he's a man who doesn't need any introduction. He's a James Bond. Okay, Alan, over to you, brother, and the floor is yours. And thank you.
Hey, buddy. I don't have an Aston Martin, anything like that. Let me give me a second to sort my screens out.
Sure.
Everyone's excited to learn some index. Yeah?
Yes.
Share. You see my screen okay?
Perfect.
Awesome. So feel free to pop questions in the chat, guys. I've got the chat open or just speak. Nice, easy questions, though. Nothing too tough. So I generally don't like talking about myself, so I won't say much. But Faraz obviously said something there. And this is a file I can provide, by the way. I can share this. And it's just a front cover with a bit of stuff about me if you don't know about me and if you care. So I'm sure most or all of you have used some lookup functions before. Obviously, this presentation is all about index. And that this is the king of the functions. So there's a bit of a story behind all of these functions, which I'm sure you guys have endured over the years, that there's a family of functions in Excel known as your lookup and reference functions. And it's always been one of the more debatable areas of Excel, where the most well-known one, the cool kid of the crowd, is Vlookup, the one that everyone's heard of. It's the kind of McDonald's of the lookup functions. It's not necessarily the best. It's cheap, it's dirty, but it gets the job done. And it's the most common one. It's the first one you learn, and it's still one of the best to this day because it just gets it done. It's consistent. It's trustworthy. Index, the topic of this, which has kind of flown under the radar for years, and generally only advanced Excel people tend to know about it. And rather unjustly, I think, it always gets spoken about in the same breath as match, which is fair enough. But we all know that index is the big brother there. Match does all the fetching, goes and gets the coffee, gets the biscuits, and then index does the big work. And that's the cool one. And everyone says index match, index match. And it's really index. I mean, that's what's doing the job. And then you've got the new kid on the block, the young brother, if you will, XLOOKUP. Yes, there's others. There's filter, indirect. I'm kind of ignoring them. But XLOOKUP is the other most well known. It's getting a big following pretty quickly, probably because it's got a name similar to Vlookup. So it's quite easy for people to find because the word lookup's in it. And it's great. You know, I published a book last year. XLOOKUP's one of the functions. I do love XLOOKUP, but I believe, and I think I'm right in believing, index is still the king. I don't think XLOOKUP has got a touch on it. And I'm going to explain a little bit why, really. So moving on to my first proper sheet here, which is barely worth it, really, is it? Look at that. That's all I wrote. But really what index, the reason that makes it so great is that it's dynamic, smart, and flexible. And, you know, Vlookup was kind of is still around. It's kind of semi-flexible. You know, you've got a column index number. We can do loads of cool stuff with that. But the kind of other side of it is fixed. You know, look down the first column, it's kind of locked in. Then you've got XLOOKUP, which is very locked in. Literally you have to click the ranges. You know, and we can use functions like indirect. I know Faraz did a YouTube video on it last week or something to try and get funky with it. But we don't have any of the numbers, all the things that we enjoy from functions like index. So I've just put a few, let's call them bullet points, if there's no bullets there, further down, that, you know, these three, I think, are other driving reasons why index is still the one. It's been around, it's not new like XLOOKUP, but it's still the one, because the dynamic array engine, it works brilliantly with index. We have the new sequence function, a function that generates numbers, and you've got an index function here that feeds off numbers. And that a beautiful combination they make. You're going to see sequence run off them. And indeed, Oz did a demonstration of that in the last meetup here with index and sequence. And then we've got Xmatch, the one that doesn't get a mention. Everyone goes on about XLOOKUP. Index has now got the XLOOKUP equivalent with it, which is why it's still ahead of XLOOKUP, because that can handle some of the other stuff. So moving into our next sheet, just getting the basics, just in case anyone is maybe not so familiar with index. I don't know the background of kind of everybody here, but I've just got this assortment of numbers that I chose very wisely. Looks like I like number 48, doesn't it? And just to quickly see index in a random cell, that being G3, if I just start up the index function, I mean, straight away you can see it's the best. I mean, look, it's got two ways of writing it. So we joke there. Now, I'm not going to do any demonstrations today of the second kind of list of arguments with the area number, because in the past, it was probably pretty cool. Nowadays, and I saw it got mentioned in the chat, I don't personally use that second option because Excel's got a function called switch, which just does that much better. Although I have demonstrated the area number in the past. So it's all about the first options, really, the array, row number, and column number. It looks pretty basic. It's going to be amazing. So the array here, just for a quick kind of intro, is if I was to select all of these bunch of random numbers. Let me zoom out, actually. I don't need to be that zoomed in. And I put in my comma. So if I was going to give it a row number of 3, and then maybe I'll give it a column number of 1. What answer are we going to get, guys? Throw it in the chat, please. 34. Yeah, 13. We're going to get 13. So it's simply going to look at that range, that table array, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be 3 rows down, which is the 13 there, and stay in that first column. Yeah. So nice and simple, especially if you guys have done a lot of this before. But don't be misled by these row numbers and column letters. Just like Vlookup, it's the third index of that range. So row 5 here is number 3. So what would happen if we don't put a column number? Because it shows in the arguments here that column number is optional. Square brackets indicating that you don't have to use this. Whenever I press enter, I get a nice little moany message. #ref tells me it's kind of optional and then complains at me. But if we come in here and throw an extra comma on the end here, but do not specify that column number, then when I press enter, it actually brings me the whole row because of that dynamic array engine. One of the reasons I mentioned index feeds off that. So all I've really given it is just give me the third row. Job done, I've got the entire third row, which I could feed to another function or something to run off. So very useful and such a minimalist. I've barely written anything there. It's tiny and very easy to do. I guess the hard work comes in where did you get that number from? I mean, I've typed it for now, but quite often that is the job of match or count or row or some other, or maybe a form control, but normally a function or a form control or something or sequence is the thing that's going to feed that number. And the rest is the magic. Cool. Maybe just one last demonstration. If I come in here and say 3 and let's change that. Let's do 2 and 2. But maybe I change this range to something larger. Maybe I'll grab a big scope outside of it and press enter. Then now obviously we are feeding off these extra blank numbers, giving me an empty as 2 and 2 is kind of outside of that range. And as we go through other lookup examples, it's going to be important that these ranges and the other stuff we use are going to match. They're going to be in proportion. Yeah, it will work with the old CSEs. Just have to select the, the range. So, I made a few comments in the start that, always gets coined with the match function. And I'm moving straight into one of those examples before I kind of start to move away from it. Oh, crikey. Why did I ignore all these rows? What have I done there? I've hidden the grid lines here for your benefit, by the way, Oz. It's the only sheet I've done this on. Well, let me hide the grid line.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And it's index match, your favorite as well. So, yeah, classic two-way lookup, index match. Something that VLOOKUP's always been given a bad rap for, can't look to the left, all that kind of talk. I just want to return kind of water and for the month of March here. This is classic index, what everyone kind of learns from it, is this index match. So I'm going to run this index function. It will prompt me for the array. Now I'm just going to select the numbers. I mean, I can select the other things, but there's kind of no point. I'm returning a value. Why would I select anything other than values? Now the row number, this is where I'm going to bring in match, a function that's job is to return an index, really. In this case, the row that we need to use. So they're a natural fit, these two functions. The lookup value, if I start with the row here, so it's going to be water for a product. Lookup array. Now this is the important moment of the kind of basic sheet we just looked at. I need to select it from orange. What's going on there? From orange juice to water. Has that been weird? I don't want to select it too high. I don't want to select B or select from product because, it's going to match up these indexes that we saw before. So orange juice down to water. Match type will be an exact match 0. Moving on. Hope this speed that's all right with you. Column number, going to use another match. Lookup value will be the month, comma. I know I'm going through this quite quick, guys. I think it's okay. Please stop me with questions. Once again, I've got to make sure that's the same width as the blue, as that array. Now, because it's going to feed either first, second, or third. It's got to match up like the previous demo. 2 close brackets after giving it the exact match. Oops, I've done something wrong. I've got a full stop. That's why I was going crazy. And I'll get the 1206, which is water for March. Just getting in the corner here. I don't have any drop-down lists, so I'm going to have to type this a bit old school. I'll put in T or I'll put in Feb. This will happily kind of match these up. Where are we going? Team Feb 658. Yeah, comma indeed, Joan. Coming back in here, I know we spoke about it, but just to go over it again, if you don't mind. If I was to change this array and select the headers as well, but keep everything the same, then I'm going to start getting some slightly weirder results. So now I'm getting 486, which is this January coffee. So everything's kind of going back one, one before T and one before Feb, because my array is not matching the other arrays. I'm starting from row 2, starting from row 3, and it's going to mix up. And you're not going to get an error because it's still returning the value. So it's just one of those things you have to look out for when you're doing functions like this. And I'm using ranges at the moment, but if you use tables, which the rest of the examples I think all use tables, it'll be much easier to do this and much easier to notice if you made a mistake. When using ranges and you're just looking at row numbers, it's harder to notice these mistakes that you might make. And we all make mistakes. Okay. So moving on, if we're happy with that, I've got 2 examples here. Because I don't know the reasons that, yes, you can subtract 1. Got an example of that coming soon. One of the reasons that some of you might, have a fondness to XLOOKUP, and I can understand why, I'm not raining on your parade, but is, some of the things XLOOKUP brings is the kind of durable range lookup, example of that coming, and the ability to look from bottom to top rather than top to bottom. 2 kind of new things. And as I mentioned in my kind of little reasons why, the fact that we have this X match function means that index is kind of unshaken by that. When XLOOKUP walked into the room and said, I can do this. So, well, my brother can do that now, so you're not impressing me. So here we go with those examples. So here we've got I've got some wine named up for after this. Got some products. I've got coffee at the moment, and I want to get the last value for coffee. So obviously that's down here in row 9 is the last occurrence of coffee. So I'm going to bring in my index function. We've got a table here, guys, working off a table now. So the array that I'm feeding from is going to be the range of values. So I'll just select that table column. I've called it multiples. Comma. The row number. This is where I'm going to bring in X match. The new match, new and improved match for those on versions that can handle it. That will prompt for the lookup value. So that's going to be coffee or cell D3, whatever's in D3, comma. The lookup array is the product column of our table. And then we're getting into maybe the sexy stuff, I don't know. Depends what floats your boat. We have the match mode and then the search mode. So putting a comma brings me to this match mode. You know, we've got this wildcard character match thing now. The other 3 are nothing new for a match user. Now I want to do an exact match here. So 0, comma. And now we've got this option, just like XLOOKUP does, of whether I'm searching first to last or last to first. I want to find the final occurrence. So I'm going last to first, -1 as they put there. Close bracket X match, asks me if I need a column. I don't. I've only got 1 column in my array, so close again. Let me come back out and run that. And that will be the last occurrence of coffee, which is our 872. Ignoring these first 2, which VLOOKUP would have brought obviously the first one back, unless we combine it with a count ifs or something. There's ways around things, you know. But this is built in to be able to do that without the workarounds. If I change that to water, I've got a drop down there that I ignored. And then we've got this 887, the last occurrence. Somebody coming in here for us? Yeah, so basically index can do that. It's a lot of things that XLOOKUP might say, oh, we've got this bottom to top. Well, so does index really, because if we're going to use it with match, then we've got this X match. The other thing, and it's X match again, that's actually doing this, to be honest, not index, but we've got the range lookup. So here I want to return the discount for 56. You know, it should be 7% because it's fallen in that range. So throwing in this index here, the array is going to be the discount. Got another table here. I think all my examples got tables now. X match for the row. Lookup value is 56, comma. That thing's getting right in the way, isn't it? But the value I'm looking down. Now this time it's not an exact match. Try and sort my zoom in out. I want to do the next smaller, you know, just like VLOOKUP defaults to. So you don't need to tell that. But here we do, -1. And what am I doing? I don't need the search mode. I'll ignore the search mode. Close X match, close index. This will return 7%, which is great, or I can change it to 45 and it will get 5%. But then, once again, depending on what you guys know, one of the great things about XLOOKUP over something like VLOOKUP is that whereas VLOOKUP can do this quite easily, actually easier, it can do it. However, it is dependent on the order of the first column, and XLOOKUP is not dependent on the first. Can I answer this? I think I'll say index. It's not dependent on the order. Because if I came in here and I just shifted this 45, if I just moved it down here, I get out of the way. It's unbroken. It's quite happy to still bring back 5%, even though I've completely ruined its order. And VLOOKUP will just fall over at that point. Cool. So because of X match, you know, those those capabilities can be combined with good old index, keeping its reign as king on the throne quite safe, I think. Oh dear, look at that voting. Come on, guys. Unbelievable. You can only vote once, Oz.
Where's the result?
Oh, I think it'll be published soon. I can see a result.
Oh, okay.
It's not going well for me, I'll say that. But I've got other examples. I mean, that's index X match. So yeah, X lookup can obviously do it in one. Which, when it comes to index match, to be honest, was always kind of I don't know if it was yours as well, Oz, but I understand index match was better. So I'm talking about index here, but it always used to be frustrating when people are like, oh, index match is better than VLOOKUP, index match. Well, you're talking about two functions versus one. A bit of an unfair contest. You should be better. It's a bit unfair ganging up on VLOOKUP with two, but there you go. And I'm using obviously two here to get that bit of it out. But we're going to stretch past that. Next sheet, we're now looking at last row. So I mentioned my reasons why that, index is especially good. It's not the only reason it's good when you're thinking relative or dynamic versus absolute, because we know that, I don't want it to sound like I'm beating down on XLOOKUP, but I guess it's the closest competition nowadays. Or give me the return array. Like, actually tell me the exact column you want. So, where's my flexibility? How can I play around with you? And with things like indirect and that, you can play a bit, but you're building up these references with square brackets and, oh, dear me. Whereas index was built for this. It's built for the way we talk. Like Steve is my next door neighbor. The post office is 50 feet away. That's how we talk a lot, and that's how index talks. A measurement from a relative location. So what I've got here, in this example, another table, can't remember what it's called, find out soon. But I've got a drop down here for the products, got hot chocolate at the moment. And I want to know the last week, like the current week, last week, whatever you want to call it, which is currently week 6, but I'm assuming weekly that's going to be added to. So it's not absolute, it's constantly changing. And people may delete stuff as well. So in here, I'm going to run my index. The array, I'm going to select the values, just like I did in the previous example. Or maybe I'll just type in the table, actually, because look, it's going to do all this horrific stuff. I'll just put in last row. That's what my table's called. Row number. Actually, it's important I've done that for this example. Row number, I need to find hot chocolate. So let's bring in match for that task. Match function. Obviously, could do X match, but I'll just go for the one that works in all versions, which obviously XLOOKUP can't. Look up hot chocolate. Down the product column. Cool. Match type is exact on that. And then we get the question about the column number. Now, I want whatever the last column is going to be. So for that, I'm going to bring in a function called columns. There's also one called rows. So both of these functions, column and columns, are absolutely fantastic. You can use them with VLOOKUP as well. Really good for some VLOOKUP stuff. Returns a number of columns in an array, i.e. this table. It'll always tell me whatever the last one is. So I'll put in columns, give it the array, which is last row, my table, close columns, close index. Run with that. Oh dear, just jumping around. And 302 is the last occurrence of hot chocolate. And doing something like that is going to be much more difficult in something like XLOOKUP. Nothing is impossible, but you're going to have to feed it the week 6 reference. And when it comes to week 7, so maybe, or whatever it may be called, obviously things get a bit more difficult. Rattling those in, you can see it quite happily goes, oh, now it's number 4. It's going to adapt with that because of working with something that can feed an index, columns in this case, feeding that. Let me undo that week 6. To be honest, VLOOKUP can do that even easier because it will run off that first column. all the joys of these column numbers versus its absolute references. Okay, I saw that question's been handled, so I can ignore that. Now, keeping with this example, taking it a step further, maybe people want to know what the difference is between the current week or last week, whatever you want to call, and the previous week. And let's just write difference, so it almost feels real. And we'll find that difference. Now let me just nick this function, because that one's already found in the last row, which is super helpful. Perhaps knocking my keyboard about. And we'll paste that in. Let's come up to the top for this, and we'll simply subtract the one before. So there was a question a little while ago about whether we can put in like negative numbers or plus. And yeah, once we get an answer, it's a number. So it's very easy just to play around. Vlookup's obviously more restrictive. Once names are things, we can just play around, -7 plus 2 to get more relative talk. So here I could just subtract whatever the previous one was, which is quite simply the same thing again, -1. Copy that, throw it in here. Everything's getting a little bit crazy now. Columns, -1. Should be good. Press enter. Difference is apparently a -489. What have I got? Hot chocolate. And there you can see it's just a difference between those last two. This week v last week, a very common kind of reporting kind of talk. And that's just for one, but I could easily get it with the others. Especially with the new dynamic arrays, unique function, list of uniques, all that fun. And just get index feeding off that. And it's going to work as new coming. So relative work, thanks Faraz, all good. Now in that example, I put in obviously a mathematical operator. I put in that minus sign, to find a difference. But obviously there's lots of other kind of operators in Excel that you can manipulate. And one thing that index will quite happily allow is the use of a range operator. So I can put that colon in between these two. Actually, these should be the other way around. And I'm just doing this off the cuff. I'm going to get myself in a pickle now. I didn't plan this. And if I put -1 on the other one and then normal here, that should just feed me those two numbers. So that's not a great example. I'm building up to something, but I'm just showing that we can have two indexes finding these different points, like -7, -10, count, whatever we're throwing in here, stick the range operator in the middle, and now we'll bring back a range, which we can either feed to the sheet, but I could feed this to a chart or to a filter function or maybe to an Vlookup, whatever we need. It can quite happily work with ranges, taking advantage of this DA engine. On that note, I have this example of ranges. We're all having fun, guys. Is there a question?
Hi, Murad. You have a question there? I think you're muted here.
I think, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Just looking through the chat while I was doing it. Yeah, all having fun, guys? We agree?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are, Alan.
Yes, thank you, Faraz.
Smiley from Martin. Yes, it's great. Stephen is saying it's great.
Excellent, excellent.
Okay. Yes, we all are here, Evelyn. Okay, buddy, carry on.
So we just saw it being used with that range, like a little range. But let's imagine that we do want the last 6 periods. So I've got this table. I can't remember what it's called. Period towers, probably. Got these periods and then these just make-believe values, And I want to create this rolling chart. I want maybe a column chart to show always the last 6 periods. When things are happening, always the last 6 or last 13, whatever. So I'm just going to build this into the sheet first, and then we'll look at building it into a chart and fingers crossed it'll work. So I'll go through this reasonably rapid. These formulas will get a bit bigger because I've got 2 of them. They're not difficult. They look big and difficult, but it's just going to be 2 indexes. It's not the same thing twice, making it look worse than what it is. Okay, so I want to get I guess we'll start with the periods. So the array will be the column of periods, comma. What's the row? Well, I want to get the one that's, the last 6. So I want to get 5 from the end kind of thing. So I'm going to bring in rows. We saw a columns function a moment ago. Now we've got rows. Just tell me how many rows are in this table. Table is apparently called periodic cells, I see there. I'll give it a column. I mean, I could just give it a table, but I'll give it a column just so it's consistent with the bit before it. How many rows are in that column? Subtract 5. So once you got to the end, just go back 5, because that will be like the last 6 kind of thing. Do I want a column number? Not really, because I'm only on one column, this period column. From there, I can put in my range operator and then just feed the same thing again, just like I did in the previous example. But this time I won't bother taking 5 off it. So when I press enter, that's going to give me the last 6 like labels, which here it's periods, but the last 6 labels. And then I'll just repeat that for the values for a moment, just so I can work this in a sheet and see it working before I attempt to put it in a chart. And at least I'm seeing it at different stages through its growth. So hopefully notice if I make a mistake. So the only difference here, what's it called? It's called cells apparently. I'll just change the periods to cells. I'll just do that by typing, but copy and paste or just click on them. 2 more, come on, 2 more. Everything else should be the same. Oh dear, jump around. And now I've got the last values. So yeah, I don't want them there, although I could. I've used this technique to create pivot style reports before. In some of these different sessions and stuff. I ultimately here want to use them in a chart. Now, apologies, Oz, I'm about to bring up one of your other friends. But I can't just start throwing these into a chart. So I need to use the name manager to bypass this, which is not new, and it's still a big deal now with all these lambdas and that coming out. But the name manager has been great for naming formulas always. The ability to define the name has always been amazing. I've done this job a long time, as I think some of you have. So I remember the days pre-2007 where even conditional formatting could not see data on a different sheet, and neither did data validation. So we always have to use names to get to another sheet. It's not that bad now, but names are still so important, especially with charts. So I'm going to build a couple of quick names and then use them in a chart. So let's go for this first one. I'm just going to select this whole formula. This is the labels. Copy that, Control C. Let's get into the name box. Define name. I'll give it an amazing name like chart labels and simply paste the formula in the box. So they are my chart labels. Okay, done. On to the next one. Grab that. All of you, copy. There we go, define name. You can be chart values. You can call these whatever you want. Paste it in, click OK. They're now defined. Now I want to use those in a chart. So first of all, I'm just going to insert my chart. Insert, choose your favorite chart. I'm going to go for a line graph. Feel like a line. There you go. Brilliant, yeah? No, of course it's not good. So we need to give that some data. So with that selected, up we come, select data. And I'm just going to feed it this data. So legend, add it in there. This is the series, isn't it? So sales can be my name. And then for the values, now we have to mention the name of the sheet. This sheet is range. Charts are very fussy. Like you can't reference tables, you can't reference like dynamic arrays directly. There's ways around it all, but there's so much more fiddly to work with charts. But they need the sheet name mentioned. So I'm going to have to say range, exclamation mark, and then my name, which is chart values. Chart values. Click OK. You see them come up. Now I've got the axes labels. There's my line building already. Axes labels, edit. Same behavior, equals, range, exclamation mark, sheet ref, chart, labels, click OK, picks up the P's, click OK, got myself a graph. And this will always feed those last 6. So I know, especially because I'm running off a table, and you don't want to get me started on how everybody should be using tables. Everything should run off tables and DAs nowadays. I can start rattling in some figures, and you'll see this will just start picking them up quite happily. Oh, not if you do it like that, it won't. Well, it will, but it's just rubbish. 890. And you can see this line graph is happily just picking these values up to P17 now, all because of index, like dynamically grabbing that range and feeding it to wherever. You don't need this stuff anymore. Feeding it to wherever you feed it to, into a chart in this case. You're not really going to get that kind of stuff in your Excel. And that was just index match. Or it wasn't even match, actually. It was index and rows. These functions have been around forever. There's certainly nothing new with these. Define names, charts. This is old school stuff. Any version. Cool. And also we can play around with that. I've done 5, but it could be anything. In fact, I could have linked it to a cell ref rather than typing 5, and then people can just toggle that. What do you want, 12 months, 3 months, 6 months, or something like that, and even more dynamic. But anyway, we can't be here forever. Lights have just gone off above my head. I think I've been plunged into darkness, haven't I? Okay, I've got 2 more examples to run through here. Next up, we're going to this top 5. So what I want to do is I've got a sheet down here called data. So it's on a separate sheet because I'm using this data one with both of these examples, the top 5 and the filter function. So I've kept this on a different sheet. It is once again a table, just to give you a heads up. You might recognize some names and what team they belong to. And apparently it's called sales team, if you need to know that, which I guess I do. Coming over to top 5, what I want to know is the top 5 names and yeah, like how much sales they made. I just want the top 5. That's all I want, like rankings kind of thing. Now I want the name and the sales here. So I'm going to show 2 examples of doing this. Well, actually, I think it's going to be 3. But looking at my data, you'll notice that name and sales are not adjacent. We've got this team one in the middle. Stopping them getting too close. And so what I'm going to do in this first example is write them in 2 different arrays. And then we're going to see how we can do in kind of one. But in this top 5, this is going to be quite a nice function, really. So starting off without the index, I want to use, for the name, my sort by function. So coming into some real 365 stuff now. You know, one of the new DAs, sort by, because I want to bring back the names, but sort it by the sales value. So I'm sorting it by a column outside of the returned range. So I can't do sort, it's going to be sort by. Sort, another function that uses indexes. Sort by, so array is, what I say it was called, sales team. Sales team name, column, comma. What array do you want to sort it by? Sales team, sales, comma. What order, ascending or descending? Descending by that sales value, biggest at the top. Close bracket and run that. So all that's going to do is feed me the entire list of names, but, you know, in the order of, you know, so Mike is the best apparently. I can't see his sales value, but apparently he's the best. And T-Rex is second best, etc. But here comes index, because nobody asked for all of them. they asked for the best five only. So it should stop at bugs. So coming in here, let's wrap that in index. Okay, what array are you interested in bringing back? Well, this array really that sort by is giving me, I think is what I want. Comma, what rows do you want? Now I'm going to show, I guess 3, but really 2 ways of doing this. Because one way I can do it, and this is the kind of old school way, so it's great for people who don't have, well, okay, I'm using sort by here, but there's other ways if you're on an older version. But we can feed it some array constants. Now, you want to try and avoid these, so I'm going to avoid them in the second example, because, you know, it's in the name, array constants. They're constant, they're not dynamic. Maybe you don't need it to be dynamic, but if you do, yeah, not great. And if I just put, at the moment, some of you may recognize the mistake, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what I want. Close off the array, close off index. That should feed me just the first 5 from that array. So when I press enter, I'll get that first 5. Now, the issue some of you might be aware of as I kind of started there is that it doesn't give it to me in a column like maybe I wanted. It feeds it to me in a row. Yes, Shaheen, you're on the nose that is coming. So how do I get that in a column? What have I done, I guess, wrong in this example? Keep my eye on the chat. Yeah, can you transpose? So, I think, or can you? It's not the way I'm going to do it. Yeah, that's the one, Robin. Robin's got it.
Right.
Gonna...
The semicolon.
Yeah, you got it. Semicolons delimiters instead. Semicolon puts it in a new row, comma puts it in a new column. So if I just make sure your semicolon and comma look so different, look so similar, don't they? And that gives me the top 5. So job done. But at the moment, I have used these array constants, which, you know, some of you may have done that before, probably with a choose function or something like this. So what I'm going to do, Shaheen mentioned it in the chat. I mentioned it on a previous sheet that these examples will be coming sequence. I say an index is not going to die when you bring out functions like sequence, which, you know, index is just was attracted to that instantly. We've got a function here that says, I'm going to bring back a bunch of numbers. That's absolutely perfect. And I'm simply going to say, give me 5, 10, and it will bring back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on its own. Obviously, that could easily be a cell ref as well, where people can change it from 5 to 10. Far away from these array constants. Press enter, job done. But with sequence, we've got the opportunity to really take that to further levels if I wanted to. The next function really for sales will be a similar thing. I could just use a normal sort this time. Sales team, sales, I could do sort by as well, but sort index, don't need. Sort order, descending, close bracket. Obviously I need an index in here, but I'd like to check that's working first, definitely in order. You see where I've not bothered formatting there. Index, there's my array. Rows, sequence haven't I, but you could do the array constants. And now you've got your top 5 list. And I've built it with 2 quick arrays. Really good DAX. Once again, if you're going to put this stuff in charts or you want to use them in other functions, you know, your life is a bit easier keeping them separate. So I'm going to see an example in a moment, which some of you may have done before, where I can bring these non-adjacent columns together in one array, which is pretty cool. And if that's the end goal, then great. But if you've got more things you want to do with that, sometimes keeping these arrays separate, you know, so you can use them in other formulas and say charts and stuff, or data validation lists or whatever, is it's more advantageous. So for example, I could run a sum function here if I wanted to, and that one's already, what's the word, but like isolated kind of thing. So I could just run that, refer to the spiel ref and get how much from the top 5 only. Because I haven't brought them in together, I've kept them separate. So now I can just refer to them easy. I don't have too much more stress. Cool. How are we doing for time? Let's get all right. So I've got one more example, although really there's about 3 examples on it. And that is with filter, which for anyone who might know me a bit closer may know that I've got a YouTube video where I called filter the best function ever. And now I'm here saying index is the best function. So some of you can probably have a moan at me about it. It's a contest. They can tie. But what I want to do here is I want to bring back from that same data set only the team mentioned from this drop down. So currently the green team only. And I want to bring back the name and the sales, which we know from the example just done are non-adjacent. Team is in the middle. I want name and sales, but this time I want to bring them in one formula, not 2 formulas like before. Not that that's such a big deal. I like the different formulas, to be honest. And some of you may have heard me say that. Okay, so what am I doing? Filter. So filter function. Array. Filter is amazing if you guys don't know about filter. Another lookup formula. Yeah. Intense logic. Multiple results. It's amazing. Array. Sales team. That's what it's called. Comma. What do you want to include? Let's get this criteria first. So the sales team has got to be equal to what's in that cell. Yeah. Do you want an if empty? No, I'm not going to bother. Close it off and run it. So obviously this is bringing back that team column at the moment because I'm just bringing back the entire array that match the team name of green. You know, I don't really want green in here. I just want the name of the person and their sales figure. So come back to that formula. I think we all know the answer here. It's index, isn't it? So instead of feeding it the entire sales team, let's bring in our index. So the array is going to be the sales team, comma, what rows do you want from this? You know, it's going to feed this to filter because remember index can feed ranges. We saw that with the chart and stuff. Now I want all of the rows. So sequence, rows, sales team. If you ever see people do this, it's basically every row of that table. You know, how many rows are in that table? Okay, great. Generate each row, give me the sequence of them. Comma, now it asks for the columns, and that's really what we're here for right now. I want columns 1 and 3, name and sales. So 2 demos here. Demo number 1, we've kind of already seen array constants. Using a comma, because we also just spoke about that, separates columns. Curly braces, array constants, close off index. That should run with that. And now we've got these non-adjacent columns. Name and sales, ignoring column 2, which was the team. Using index, whoops, wrong cell. Using index, you know, the king of functions to come in here and get that job done. Little help from sequence and little array constant. So, I mean, array constants can be fine because in this example, I mean, the example with the sorting list, you might want it to be a bit smarter. In this list, is that ever going to change? I mean, how often are you going to change the columns? It's not the kind of thing people do daily, is like start moving columns. It happens, but it's not like crazy regular. So you could probably put 1 and 3 and be as happy as Larry for the rest of this spreadsheet's life. But if we wanted it to be more dynamic, another friend of our day is a function called match. And I could start referencing these headers I've got. I could bring in a match function, say, okay, look for these header names, comma, where do you want to look? Sales team along your header row. There's your header row, headers. Match type will be 0. And I'm saying, look, just match up the headers that I'm asking for. If we run with that, same answer. But the joy now is that we're not giving it these array constants of 1 and 3. I'm actually referencing these cells, so they're dynamic. if people came and changed this to team, which is obviously ridiculous in this example, but if they did, you'll return team. Change back to name, returns name. And we've got that bit more flexibility with the columns, like if you needed it, which is not crazy regular, and away from using those fixed constants. Now, just a couple of other kind of things on that to close this bit out, but something you might hear a lot, because I have, and it was spoken about at a recent webinar, like meetup. I won't say what one it is, but some of you may have been there, where some people are complaining that, filter doesn't bring back headers. Like, I can't believe it doesn't bring back headers and it brings back data. Which, I mean, it'd be nice if it had an option for the headers, but personally I have to kind of be quiet because I'm always thinking, is that really a problem? I mean, the normal filter doesn't bring back headers, does it? It brings back data. Advanced filter doesn't bring back headers, it brings back data. But all of a sudden people want to moan about filter, well, it doesn't bring back headers, it's ridiculous. I have to write the headers. It's not exactly hard, is it? But I think that's a good thing because you probably have other things that are going to feed off that data. The headers are not data. So I don't want that cluttering the results and breaking other things. But if for some reason you wanted it to be dynamic and you can't type these headers in because you want something a bit extra, I think you know the answer. Index can do that for you. I can bring back the headers just like I can bring back filter. Separate formula, but I can maintain that dynamism. So I'll just do it in this random area. The array would be the sales team headers. Comma, row number. Don't think I have to provide it, but it's row 1. And then the columns, I'll just go back to these array constants, 1 and 3. And there's your headers. So if you wanted this formula approach, just like filter, if you've got these non-adjacent filters going, I need these columns, we could also do another formula just to bring back the headers as a separate array. So it doesn't ruin, if I'm using those arrays in charts, the chart's not going to be happy if it's a header in there. So we can keep it separate, and it's a tiny, tiny formula. Look at that. Index again. Index, index, index. Furthermore, if we did bring back this in one array and we wanted to use that in a formula or in a chart or all this kind of stuff, then now we've got a problem because I can't just talk about sales here. If I use a spill, it's everything, like all 8 columns or whatever. So guess what's going to help us? Need we know more? Index, coming in here, going, okay, look at that spill ref, comma, what rows you want? I don't think I have to answer this, but let me put sequencing in the way because I'm doubting myself when I'm live. I don't think you have to answer this. I'll get rid of it after. Closes off, comma, column number. Here's the magic question. 2. I just want the sales, please. And it brings back the sales. So if we do have this big dynamic array, you thought, I only really want the 4th column to use in this other function or to use as chart labels. Quickly we'll index, look at that spill ref, just bring me that last column. I don't think I need this. It works with it, no harm. It works without it. Just bring me the 2nd column, piece of cake. And obviously that is not an array constant. I should be able to feed that to a cell if I really wanted to. Yes, and I can just bring back whatever column I want from it. So cool, index, baby. If I wanted to, I could wrap that in a sum. Hey, start wrapping them in functions. 590 from the green team. Put that next to it, can I, and stuff. Yeah. Excellent. So another example of why index is, a lot of people have considered it the best function, or certainly up there for, potentially 20 odd years. And now we move into modern Excel with, obviously the likes of Power Query talking non-formulaic, but keeping with like Vlookup and filter and all these big players coming into the lookup family. But based on examples I'm showing here, I think index is, arguably still the one that says, look, I can do things that you guys just simply can't do. And especially with a new function like sequence, and with the ability to handle arrays, like with some of these examples, it's, if anything, even more important than it was. It's not really taking a step back, it's taking a step forward. You see filter really relies on it here to try and get those. I mean, you can use choose, there's other ways, but index is the best way to get these non-adjacent columns. I think I'm probably done, Faraz. So on to any questions that I've got a feeling they may have been answered in the chat.
No, I've been not. I was just checking the YouTube chat. I can see Paula was here. She's still there. She said hi. And some friends from Saudi Arabia, they are liking the session. They're enjoying it. Some from California. Great. And Los Angeles as well. Wow. And let me check the chat over here. Okay, there is some question in the chat, Oakley.
Thanks, Martin. Stop.
Plus filler.
We'll share again. Just want to see you guys on the main screen. Cheers, Martin.
Martin.
I'm just looking at the chat now to see if there's anything.
Yeah. You can feel free to check the chat. I think it was been handled on the chat.
Yeah, I saw some questions early, and and I saw some people answering and second guessing what I was going to do as well.
Let me end the poll. I'll just end the poll for Lookup.
What's going on with that?
Lookup is the winner over here. Still, I think I should I should put the poll again, or this poll again.
Those last two examples.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know, man.
Questions? Anything you want to ask Alan?
People
Feel free to ask.
Vlookup. Who did that?
Think someone's playing around.
Was that you, Oz?
No.
Old school
Oh, no.
Oz.
No. Either Lookup or merges in Power Query.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Alan, we have a question here. I think Stephen has to say
I have
something.
a question.
Yeah, please, Stephen.
Have you still got that page with the bottom 6 making the graph? I found that quite interesting.
Cool. Yeah, and I can share this file, guys, by the way. No problems. Move this gear out of the way.
Stephen. Morning.
Yeah.
What is it you wanted to see, buddy? Did you want
Just
to
because we use time series, but I'm impressed how automated that is. If you wanted to change the range, though, do you still have to go into the select data in the graph?
Depends what you mean by the range. If it's the number of periods, then I could have set that up and kind of linked it to a cell to make that bit variable.
Yeah, as because you had 6, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. So I could have edited that. So, at the moment, if I did go back into the data, actually, it's not the data; it's the name, isn't it?
The names.
Because that's sort of, I can relate to that, but that looks a lot more automated than what we would do.
Oh, look at these resizable boxes. I could just click on that cell there. J2.
-1 as well. Make it J2 -1. Or
oh, sorry. What did I click? Did I click in the wrong place for that? Cancel. Let me just put the whole thing on the sheet. don't know, working that name box. So this is the one on the sheet. Yeah, so where the minus, did I delete the minus, did I?
If you're going to make it J1, make it J1 minus 1.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because you want the number of columns minus 1.
I've got 5 here as well. But we could just link those to cells.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
And then they make it variable on that. And if I did want last 6, somebody's probably going to type 6 in there because they want 6 periods. But we know the answer there was 5. So I might do like that and then like add one on top. or
minus 1.
Minus 1, sorry, yeah. Just to bring it back to 5. Makes sense. And I'll do it the same with the other one, put them back in a defined name. And I can keep that there, and I'll just share this file as is.
That's brilliant, Alan. Thanks.
Nice. What's that one? Use that one.
Sure. Cool, Alan. That was, I think, yes, it's coming with it.
Cool. I think on your poll, Faraz, I think these are my excuses coming. Because the poll doesn't say index, it says index and match together.
Yeah.
And that's the reason.
Yeah, because, yes. So that was great, Alan. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining in today. And some great, Alan and showed some great tricks with index match. I think I should set up the poll again and let's see then what do we get the results this time. So it was really good learning. There's a lot of great insight. We never thought about that, using some sequence inside it and making those things, and it can make our task so easy, especially the one which you have showed it, that how can we, the name selection of the headers, and those are really cool stuff. Really cool. I really liked it. And so we'll be just ending the session from the YouTube now. And thank you, everybody, for coming. But we'll be still remaining on the Zoom. And some last words that make sure that you join the meetup. And there are some great meetups for Alan as well. Alan handling the meetup for London meetup. And there are some great events happening up. So make sure that you connect to that meetups all, because you'll find them in the whole month. We are having all the places, some meetups are going on. So make sure to catch up those meetups. And any last and final words, Alan, for the YouTube friends?
Thanks for watching.
Okay.
Start spreading the word of index. That's my closing statement.
Oz is trying to speak something. Oz, you're muted.
I was going to say, Alan needs to come up with a catchphrase. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, friends. We are signing out from YouTube right now. Bye.
Good job.
That's Vidania.
Index more flexible than spandex.
Yes, that's it. That's it.